How
The red
could
eye
you?
from
I have
Singapore
proof right
wasn't
here.
supposed to
It's
land
not what you
until
think.
morning.
Let me
But
explain.
Sophia
You're a
Chen's
liar.
meeting
Please,
had
just
concluded
listen.
early.
I have
She
proof right
smiled
here.
as she imagined
What are you
surprising
talking about?
Marcus
Stop
with his
lying. I
favorite
know
pastries
everything.
from
Please,
the airport
just
bakery.
listen.
After 15
See?
years of marriage,
This is the one.
these small
Oh, yeah.
gestures still
That's
mattered
perfect.
to her.
Right?
The penthouse
Absolutely.
was dark when she entered
I
at
have
2
proof.
a.m.
It's all on
her
here.
heels clicking
What?
softly
Give me
against
that!
the marble
No,
floor.
this ends
She
now.
noticed
Can't
the
do
glow
this!
from Marcus's study and headed toward it, thinking he'd fallen asleep at his desk again. But as she approached, she heard his voice, low, intimate, laughing in a way he hadn't laughed with her in years. "I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Wear that red dress I bought you." Sophia froze in the hallway. Through the crack in the door, she saw her husband's face illuminated by his phone screen, his expression tender and alive. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she silently stepped back, her mind racing. She retreated to the guest room, her hands shaking as she set down her luggage. The pastries suddenly felt heavy in her bag. Sophia sat on the edge of the bed, forcing herself to breathe steadily. Her first instinct was to burst into his study, to demand answers, to scream. But something stopped her. Perhaps it was the years she'd spent building a billion-dollar investment firm, learning that emotional reactions rarely produced strategic results. Instead, she waited until Marcus went to bed, then retrieved his laptop from the study. She knew his passwords. They'd never kept secrets. Until now. The messages with Elena Rivers, his assistant, stretched back 6 months. Dinner reservations, hotel rooms, intimate photos, plans for a future that apparently didn't include Sophia. Each message was a knife, but Sophia read them all, screenshotting everything. Her tears fell silently as she worked, but her hands remained steady. By dawn, she had created an encrypted folder with hundreds of pages of evidence. When Marcus woke at 7, Sophia was in the kitchen making coffee, perfectly composed in her silk robe. "How was Singapore?" he asked, kissing her cheek casually. "Productive," she replied, her voice even. "I closed the Anderson deal." "That's my girl," he said, already distracted by his phone. Probably texting Elena. After Marcus left for the office, Sophia sat at their dining table overlooking Central Park. The morning sun cast long shadows across the room. She called David Park, her friend since childhood and one of the city's top family law attorneys. "David, I need your help. And I need complete discretion." "Sophia, what's wrong?" His concern was immediate. "Can you meet me today? Not at your office. Somewhere private." 2 hours later, they sat in a quiet corner of a hotel restaurant. David listened as Sophia explained everything, showing him the evidence on her tablet. His expression shifted from shock to professional focus. "I'm so sorry, Sophia, but you've done exactly the right thing by documenting everything." He paused, studying her face. "What do you want to do?" Sophia's eyes were dry now, her voice clear. "I want to understand my options. All of them. And David, I don't want him to see it coming." David nodded slowly. "Then we need to move carefully. The prenuptial agreement you signed, do you remember its terms?" "Every word. I wrote most of it. I was the one with money back then." A slight smile crossed David's face. "Then let's review what you built together, and what he thinks he owns. Because Sophia, I have a feeling Marcus is about to learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating you." Sophia maintained her routine with practiced precision. Morning workouts, foundation meetings, charity lunches, everything continued as normal. But beneath the surface, she was conducting the most important investigation of her life. Each evening, after Marcus left for his late meetings, Sophia sat in her home office with David, reviewing financial documents that spanned 15 years. Her mother Grace joined them on the third night, her sharp legal mind still formidable despite retirement. "You funded the seed money for his company," Grace noted, reading through incorporation papers. $2 million from your first successful exit." "I believed in him," Sophia said quietly. "He had the vision, but I had the capital and the network." David pulled up another file. "And when the company needed expansion capital 3 years later, you leveraged your investment portfolio for a $10 million loan." The picture became clearer with each document. Sophia had been the financial architect of their empire while Marcus had been the public face. Their joint accounts, the penthouse, the vacation homes, the art collection, she could trace her money to every acquisition. The prenuptial agreement states that assets acquired during the marriage remain separate unless explicitly commingled, David explained. But Marcus transferred company shares into both your names 5 years ago, supposedly as a romantic gesture. Sophia remembered that anniversary. Marcus had presented her with revised ownership papers over champagne, calling it a symbol of their partnership. She'd been touched by the gesture. He made a mistake, Grace said, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. By commingling the assets, he opened the door for you to claim full ownership, especially given that you can prove you were the original source of all capital. Over the next week, Sophia tracked Marcus's movements. She hired a discreet investigator who confirmed regular visits to a luxury apartment in Tribeca. The one Sophia's bank statement showed Marcus had leased using their joint account. The same account held money from her latest investment exit. Elena's social media revealed shopping trips to Bergdorf Goodman, dinners at Percere, weekends in the Hamptons. Every luxury funded by Sophia's work, her investments, her years of building wealth that Marcus now spent on another woman. But it was the email Sophia found on their shared cloud that truly opened her eyes. Marcus had been discussing selling the company, their company, to a consortium of investors. The projected sale price was $300 million. He'd never mentioned it to her. He was planning to cut you out, David said, his jaw tight with anger. Look at this draft agreement. He structured it to give you a minimal payout, claiming the company's success was entirely due to his leadership. Sophia felt cold. It wasn't just infidelity. It was calculated financial betrayal. Her mother reached across the table, squeezing her hand. You know what you need to do. I need to understand everything first, Sophia replied. Every asset, every debt, every legal vulnerability. I won't make a move until I'm certain. That night, Sophia couldn't sleep. She walked through their penthouse, seeing it with new eyes. The Rothko painting Marcus loved, purchased with her bonus from the Chen Foundation deal. The Steinway piano, bought with dividends from her tech investments. Even the engagement ring on her finger, upgraded for their 10th anniversary, paid for by her. She'd built an empire and handed him the keys, trusting in love and partnership. But Marcus had seen opportunity, not obligation. At dawn, Sophia made a decision. She wasn't going to just divorce Marcus. She was going to reclaim everything that was rightfully hers, and she was going to do it so thoroughly, so legally impeccably, that he would have no recourse. She texted David, "I'm ready. Let's build the case." His response came immediately, "I've been waiting for you to say that. Tomorrow, we start the restructuring." Sophia looked at her reflection in the window, the Manhattan skyline behind her. The woman looking back was different from the one who discovered the affair 2 weeks ago. That woman had been heartbroken. This woman was determined. David's conference room became Sophia's war room. 3 attorneys, 2 forensic accountants, and a private investigator sat around the table, each with a specific role in what David called the most complex asset reclamation case he'd ever handled. The prenuptial agreement has a clause Marcus's attorney inserted 15 years ago, explained Jennifer Wu, David's senior partner. It states that in the event of infidelity, the unfaithful party forfeits claim to marital assets. At the time, you insisted it apply to both parties equally. Sophia remembered. She'd been so in love, so certain of their bond, that she'd agreed to the clause without hesitation. Marcus had joked that it would never matter. Now we prove infidelity, which you've documented extensively, Jennifer continued. But here's where it gets interesting. The company shares Marcus transferred to joint ownership can be reclaimed under the prenuptial terms, especially since you can prove you were the original capital source. Michael Torres, the lead forensic accountant, spread out financial charts. I've traced every dollar. Your initial $2 million investment grew to the company's current valuation of $320 million. Marcus has drawn a CEO salary, but the growth came from strategic decisions you made behind the scenes. I introduced him to our first major clients, Sophia said. I connected him with the venture capital firms that funded expansion. I negotiated the partnerships that tripled revenue. Exactly, Michael confirmed. And you did it while running your own investment firm. Marcus's contribution was operational management, valuable, but not irreplaceable. Your contribution was foundational. Grace, sitting quietly in the corner, finally spoke. What about the criminal aspects? He used joint funds to support his affair. Legally grey, David admitted, but morally damning. And in the court of public opinion, devastating. Over the next 5 days, they built an airtight strategy. Sophia would execute several moves simultaneously, file for divorce citing infidelity with ironclad evidence, initiate legal proceedings to reclaim all assets funded by her capital, freeze joint accounts to prevent asset dissipation, and notify the company's board of directors about Marcus's plans to sell without her consent. The timing is crucial, David stressed. Marcus is planning his weekend getaway with Elena. He'll be distracted, confident, unsuspecting. That's when we strike. Sophia met with her financial advisor, quietly restructuring her personal accounts and investments. She transferred liquid assets into accounts solely in her name, closed joint credit cards, and prepared to move her personal wealth beyond Marcus's reach. But the emotional toll was immense. At night, Sophia sat with her mother, finally allowing herself to grieve. I loved him, Mom. I still do, in some broken way. Grace held her daughter close. Love isn't supposed to make you smaller, Sophia. Real love lifts you up. What Marcus did, that wasn't love. That was convenience and exploitation. Was I blind? Were there signs I missed? You were trusting. There's a difference. Grace pulled back, looking her daughter in the eye. But now you're informed. And you're taking action. That takes more strength than staying angry. The night before execution day, David called with final confirmation. Everything's in place. The divorce papers are prepared. The asset transfer documents are ready. The board has been quietly notified. At 9 a.m. tomorrow, we change your life. Sophia stood in her study, looking at a photo from her wedding day. She and Marcus looked so happy, so full of promise. She allowed herself one last moment of mourning for the marriage she thought she had, the partnership she believed in. Then she put the photo face down in a drawer and pulled out her laptop. She composed an email to her investment firm's leadership team, announcing a major restructuring that would begin next week. She drafted a press release about her new venture capital fund focused on women entrepreneurs. She outlined a speech she would give at an upcoming tech conference about building businesses with integrity. Marcus thought he'd won by deceiving her. But Sophia was about to teach him that underestimating a brilliant woman was the most expensive mistake he'd ever make. Marcus was humming in the shower at 7 a.m. when the doorbell rang. Sophia, already dressed in a sharp navy suit, answered it. The process server handed her the documents with a respectful nod. She'd been expecting him. What was that? Marcus called from the bathroom. Package delivery, Sophia replied calmly, setting the divorce papers on the kitchen counter where he'd see them. She waited, pouring herself coffee with steady hands. When Marcus emerged in his bathroom, excited about his planned trip to the Hamptons with Elena, he froze at the sight of the documents. What is this? I think it's self-explanatory, Sophia said, her voice level. I'm divorcing you, Marcus, for infidelity with Elena Rivers. It's all documented in Section 3. His face went white, then red. Sophia, let me explain. Don't. She held up her hand. I know everything. 6 months of messages, the Tribeca apartment, the gifts, the dinners. I've known for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. He looked confused, then calculating. Why didn't you say anything? Because I needed time to understand exactly what you built on my foundation, and to take it back. At precisely 9 a.m., as they stood in their kitchen, several things happened simultaneously across the city. David filed divorce papers in Manhattan Family Court, along with motions to freeze all joint assets and reclaim company shares. Jennifer usurped papers to Marcus's company, notifying the board of his planned sale and Sophia's majority shareholder position. Michael Thomas executed transfers of funds from distribution and her legal claim to primary ownership. Marcus's phone began ringing. And ringing. "What did you do?" he whispered, his hands shaking as he read text after text. "I took back what was mine," Sophia replied. "Every dollar I invested in you, in us, in the company. I can trace it all. The prenuptial agreement you thought was romantic? It protects me, not you. The joint ownership you created? It actually gives me grounds to claim full ownership since I was the source of all capital." "You can't do this," Marcus shouted. "I built that company." "No," Sophia corrected quietly. "I funded it. I connected you with investors. I introduced you to your first major clients. You managed operations, Marcus, and you did it well. But without my money and my network, there would be no company." Elena called. Marcus ignored it. His lawyer called. He answered, then paced frantically as he learned the full scope of what Sophia had done. By noon, the story had leaked to the business press. Tech CEO's wife executes brilliant financial reclamation after discovering affair. By evening, it was on cable news. Social media erupted with reactions, most praising Sophia's strategic brilliance, others debating the ethics of her move. Sophia's phone rang constantly. Interview requests, support from friends, inquiries from women entrepreneurs wanting to join her new fund. She ignored most of it, focusing instead on the board meeting scheduled for the next day. That night, Marcus tried to return to the penthouse. The locks had been changed. He stood outside, calling her phone repeatedly until David arrived with security. "You need to leave, Marcus," David said firmly. "Contact your attorney for all future communication." "She's destroying me," Marcus protested. "No," David replied. "She's reclaiming what you tried to steal. There's a difference." Sophia watched from the window as Marcus was escorted away. She felt no triumph, no joy, only a strange sense of finality. Her mother appeared beside her. "How do you feel?" "Like I can breathe again," Sophia admitted. "Like I'm remembering who I was before I made myself smaller to fit into his vision of us." The next morning, Sophia walked into the boardroom of Marcus's company. Her company, with her legal team. The board members looked uncomfortable, caught between their loyalty to their CEO and the undeniable financial reality that Sophia held majority control. "Gentlemen," Sophia began, taking the seat at the head of the table. "Let's discuss the future of this company, and who actually built it." 3 months later, Sophia stood in the glass-walled office of her new venture capital firm, Chen Ventures, overlooking Manhattan. The walls displayed photos of the 12 women-led startups she'd funded in her first quarter, each founder's story a testament to potential unleashed. The company she'd reclaimed from Marcus had been sold to that same consortium of investors. But this time, Sophia negotiated the deal, ensuring a price of $340 million. Marcus received a severance package as former CEO, enough to live comfortably but nowhere near what he'd expected. The prenuptial agreement was brutal in its clarity. "The Fenway Capital Partners are here," her assistant announced. Sophia smiled. This new chapter felt right in a way her marriage never had. She was building something entirely hers, on her own terms, without compromise or diminished expectations. The media attention had been intense but mostly positive. Business magazines praised her strategic thinking. She'd given one interview to a women's leadership publication, where she spoke carefully about financial literacy, prenuptial agreements, and the importance of knowing your worth. "Did you do it for revenge?" the interviewer had asked. "No," Sophia had replied honestly. "I did it for clarity. Once I understood the full picture of what had been taken from me, my trust, my capital, my partnership, I simply took back what was mine. Revenge would have been emotional. This was mathematical." Marcus had tried to reach out twice. First through angry emails, threatening legal action that his lawyers had apparently talked him out of pursuing. Then, more recently, with a handwritten letter expressing regret and asking for another chance. Sophia had read it once, then filed it away. Some bridges, once burned, revealed they were always meant to be temporary crossings. David had become a constant presence, helping her navigate the legal complexities and, increasingly, simply being there as a friend. Over taken his hand gently. "David, you've been my anchor through this. But I need to learn who I am outside of being someone's wife, someone's partner. I need to be whole on my own first." He'd nodded, understanding in his eyes. "When you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here." The truth was, Sophia didn't know if she'd ever be ready for another relationship. The betrayal had left scars, certainly. But more than that, she'd discovered a version of herself she'd forgotten existed. The hungry, brilliant, fearless entrepreneur who'd made her first million before 30. She'd spent 15 years dimming that light to let Marcus shine, and now she was rediscovering its full brightness. Her mother visited the new office, pride evident in her expression. "Your father would be so proud," Grace said, touching a photo of them at Sophia's college graduation. "I wish he could have seen this." "He knew," Grace assured her. "He always told me you were destined for something extraordinary. He just didn't know you'd have to break apart to find it." That evening, Sophia hosted a dinner for her fund's first cohort of founders, 12 women building companies in tech, healthcare, and sustainable energy. As they shared stories of obstacles overcome and breakthroughs achieved, Sophia felt a sense of purpose deeper than anything she'd experienced before. "You're not just funding our companies," one founder said during toasts. "You're showing us that our value isn't negotiable, that we don't have to make ourselves smaller to succeed." After they left, Sophia stood alone in her office, looking at the city lights. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Marcus, I finally understand what I lost. It wasn't the money or the company. It was you. I'm sorry." Sophia read it twice, then deleted it. Not out of anger, but out of completion. That chapter had closed. She'd mourned, reclaimed, rebuilt. Now she was authoring something entirely new. She thought about the woman who discovered those texts 3 months ago, heartbroken and shaking. She wanted to tell her, "You're going to survive this. More than that, you're going to transform. The pain you feel right now is the breaking open that lets your true self emerge. Trust yourself. Know your worth. And never, ever make yourself smaller for someone else's comfort." Sophia's reflection in the glass smiled back at her, a woman who'd learned that real power isn't about control or revenge. It's about clarity, courage, and the willingness to walk away from anything that diminishes you. She turned off the lights and headed home, ready for whatever came next.